Hey, it's Scott Petrak with another episode of the Brown Zone Coverage Podcast. The Browns went to Las Vegas over the weekend, and like many people, the trip lasted too long. After a great first quarter, they fell apart, then couldn't pull off the comeback at the end. They're 1-3 and officially reeling. The offense hasn't scored 20 points in a game, and the defense has played just bad enough to lose. Here to discuss, as always, is Dave Chudowsky of the WKYC Morning News. What's going on, Chud?
Scott, this is the first time in a long time I'm just dreading this. Like usually I look forward to our chat. I'm just like, oh my gosh. But I'll say this. They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Not true. The Browns brought back a loss.
That's exactly right. And I had to, when I was writing these stories, Chud, and I don't know if the fans know this, you know it. I love Vegas. So I tried to sprinkle in some gambling stuff and some strip references, but I tried not to go too overboard when I was writing about it. But yeah, I mean, they busted, it came up craps, all of it. And it was just a lost weekend for them out there.
Yeah, I'm going to give my executive producer on Channel 3 Morning News, Jenny Jordan. She came up with that one for one of our teases on Monday morning. So I'm not going to take credit, but I did like that. But, Scott, I'm going to open up with this real quick. And I'm just going to say that I'm not going to come out here and yell and scream, and I've done that plenty of times on the TV before, and you hear radio guys do it all the time and everything. And I know social media, I've watched plenty over the last 2 days of people screaming. I'm not going to scream, but I am going to tell you right now. All right. Luckily, thankfully, I have the gift of sight, and I've watched now 4 games. And I'm not going to scream and get mad at the Browns, but I will tell the listeners that are listening right now that it's over. I'm telling you, I've watched enough. And are they going to win more games? Absolutely. But if you think this team is going to be a playoff contender and go to the Super Bowl, you need to reevaluate your thought process. And you can't just sit there and say, well, it's still early. No, I'm telling you. And here's the thing. This is 2 people, Scott. You predicted 10 wins. I predicted 9. And there's a lot of people that predicted way more. And I think we try to be as truthful people as we can. And I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, and I'm not trying to be too dramatic, because I have been with them for the first 4 weeks. I picked them to win again. I have tried to support them, but I'm telling you, I've watched enough with the injuries, with what I've seen from Deshaun Watson. Yes, he was better. What I've seen from the offensive line and the defense, which I was already telling you was not elite when everyone did think they were elite, and then they got ran all over. I'm just saying, I don't know how many games they're going to win, but I would lower your expectations big time for the rest of the year. Otherwise, it's going to be a miserable year, Browns fans.
Wow, that is strong, Chud. I can't say I disagree with you. I am not ready to go that far. And you brought up a couple of points that I want to get back to right away. I had a note, and I don't know if I think I softened it in my game story from Sunday, that it feels, and I wrote it and I'm still going to butcher it. My point was, we're not even to October yet, and it felt like it felt like the Browns are finished. And that's what you're saying. And I think I softened that maybe between the first and the second version, just because it is only 4 games. They are only 1-3. They're a game back of the Ravens in the division, right? So there's plenty of football left to be played, certainly. So I want to keep that in mind. That's not dismissing what you say at all. I just felt like from a journalism standpoint, I had to rein it in a little bit. So, but I completely get where you're going, and we're going to hit on that. Are they really done or not? The other thing is the expectations, Chud. And I'm working on an analysis about that right now. And not to get too philosophical, but I feel like in life, when you have big expectations, if you're going to go play golf, if you're going to go to a new restaurant, you're going on vacation, if you have this, oh my God, it's going to be the best thing ever, then it's tough to live up to that, right? And, if I go out to play golf and I think I'm going to shoot 100, well, then if I break 100, then your expectations are good. But if I go out going, I'm feeling good, I'm going to shoot 75, and then you shoot 85, it's all perspective, right? So I think that's what makes this 1-3 start so frustrating and disappointing for fans. And I think the team too, is because the expectations were so high. You talked about what we predicted. The Browns are talking about Super Bowl and AFC North title. And I think rightfully so, because they had a playoff season a year ago. They won 11 games. They brought back everybody. The roster looked good. Deshaun Watson was healthy. All those things led to high expectations. And, people had high expectations in Kansas City, and those were met. But my point is, when you think things are going to be great, and I think a lot of fans thought the Browns were going to be great, or at least really good this year, that makes 1-3 and the way they're playing in this 1-3 so much tougher to deal with.
Well, Scott, that's just it. If they were like putting up 30 points or 20 points, I mean, they're not even scratching 20. It's the way they're playing. That's my problem. Is they're not losing like these heartbreakers 28-27 and or playing amazing defense and somehow they're losing 14-13. I don't know. The bottom line is, and this was a game they should have won. I mean, they should have won this. But the other thing too is this was the winnable stretch, right? I mean, and this winnable stretch, you're now facing a Washington team that's 3-1 with a quarterback that looks incredible. That's not all of a sudden that game no longer fits the winnable criteria in my mind. I'm not saying they can't win it. As a matter of fact, the way the NFL goes, the Browns probably will go there and win it. But that said, they just lost the first two of a stretch of 3. Now, if I'm going to give you any hope at all, you could maybe say, all right, they upset Washington. Philadelphia's reeling, coming off a bye though. Philadelphia's reeling, and then they do seem to own Cincinnati for the most part, right? So I guess if you can try to look at it that way, that's how they saved their season, is maybe finding a way to win 2 of the next 3, or maybe somehow winning all 3 of them. So I'll grant you that if they can pull that off. And I also will say that the one hope that they have, where I will admit I'm wrong, if I am wrong, after a month or 2 from now, the only recipe I see for them turning this around is to get healthy on the offensive line, get your tackles back. Nick Chubb comes back and is similar to what he's always been. Njoku comes back, and Amari Cooper starts catching the football. If all of that happens, that's how the recipe. That's the only way I see it.
Yeah, I get that. And, you make a point about, okay, could they go on a little run here? I don't even think you can afford to think like that. I think to me, okay, there's 13 games left. Let's say they need to get to 10 wins, and that gives them a chance to get to the playoffs. And maybe 9 did last year. The AFC is kind of a, jumbled mess. But let's just say 10. So that means they got to win 9 of the last 13. 9 of 13. And that's hard to do. But to me, that doesn't feel impossible. You go, okay, well, you go on stretches where you need to win 9 of 13 games. You don't have to win them all. You can throw a couple losses in there. Now, it's still a lot of work, and, it's a big picture thought. But that's how I kind of see it. Okay, well, that's the long-term goal, and it starts with winning 1 and, whatever, all the coach speak stuff. But you're right about Washington no longer looks easy at all. In fact, it looks really difficult, and, Jaden Daniels looks phenomenal. And they're explosive offensively, and the Browns can't score 20 points, so how are they going to match up? We'll get in that with the predictions. But even if Washington were playing poorly, the Giants were bad and the Raiders were bad, and the Browns also lost 2 games. So any thought you had that they're better than X, Y, and Z, those are out the window. They could lose to anyone, and they have yet. You're always the show me guy. They've yet to show that they can beat anybody this year, right? The one win was against a bad Jacksonville team. So there's so much for this team to prove. Now, I still think the roster is pretty sound. Now, are there maybe more deficiencies than I originally thought? Sure. Do the injuries affect things? Without a doubt. But I still kind of feel like there's something there for this team. But at the same time, it feels like they're so far away from capturing that. And it's all encompassing, Chud. Okay, maybe Deshaun Watson played better, but it's still not good enough. The line, the protection was better, but still not good enough and killed them in huge moments of the game. The defense, like I said, plays just bad enough to get you beat. It gets a touchdown, which I kind of thought it would get a touchdown this game when I was predicting the win, but yet gives up 20 points and has another costly roughing the passer penalty and misses too many tackles. Just isn't dominant enough to bail out the offense, which is what it needs to be doing right now, and it hasn't done it. Your kicker misses a kick. You're not playing smart enough. There's a play where Jerome Ford, who I thought had a pretty good game and provided a spark and had a big run late, they run a screen and he runs to the wrong side. The linemen are out of the left and he goes to the right. And after the play, Watson yells at him hey, the play's to the left. And he gets tackled for no gain or a loss. And if he goes left, who knows what it turns out to. There's a handful of those a game across the roster. And you're well, why are they screwing this up? Why aren't they, and I don't want to say prepared, but why aren't they on point, right? So you throw all that in the mix. You look at an offense that can't score, the quarterback just can't throw for 200 yards. Receivers don't have 100 yards. There's not a receiver with a 100-yard game. There's not a running back with a 100-yard game. And you think, okay, how do they get to that place where they need to be? And, of course, this is prisoner of the moment, but it's hard to picture them getting where they need to be, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. And maybe I'm mad at myself because I always have had that philosophy of you got to show it to me. And I went against that, and now I'm 1-3 in predicting these guys, and I know that doesn't matter. Listen, I know we take pride in our picks, but the bottom line is I'm disappointed as a fan and a Clevelander that this is what we have and what the Browns fans are dealing with right now. That's what it's really all about. So I kind of joke about the prediction thing there, but that just ties into the, hey, you got to show it to me. And Scott, I think I said it last week. If I predicted them to beat the Raiders and they didn't, I probably wouldn't pick them again until they win. So, that's, you don't have to wait till the end of this to know where I'm going at the end, right? So, but there's 3 different places I want to go from everything you just said. I'm trying to figure out, 4, I think. I'm trying to figure out which way to go. Let's go with this. Let's look at overcompassing. You talk about how much talent is on this roster, okay? So if they have the talent, and minus the fact that they are missing a lot of that talent with injuries, if they have the talent, and I don't want you to tell me because I have a theory here, okay, and I want to hear yours, and I'm going to put you on the spot because we haven't talked about this, but I don't want to talk about mistakes or injuries or anything. Is there just something that you can pull out of the sky? Do you sit and ever think, what's wrong with this team? So that's what I mean. If they have all this talent, they made it to the playoffs, what's wrong? Why is this team not gelling? Why are they 1-3 and looking terrible?
Wow.
Do you want me to give you mine while you think about it?
I would, because I think that's a great question, Chud.
All right, I'm going to give you mine. And I'm going to ask you just a yes or no. Do you feel like how do you feel the players feel about Deshaun Watson? And I'm not asking because I know you don't know for sure because, it's not like you sit and go have beers with them and talk about him. I don't know. Do you feel like they have his back?
That's a great question. I've been asked that before. I think it depends on the player you're talking to. I think some guys are completely behind Watson, and I think there's a number of players in there that probably aren't. And it could be for a variety of reasons. It could be they just don't think he's good enough, whatever. But I would say, and I'm not saying the locker room's divided there, but I think there's a split.
No.
I think there's just,
okay.
I think some guys yes, some guys no.
Okay, so half and half. All right. Yeah. So that takes me to my theory. That's not good when you have a split like that. Look at the Guardians. This team loves each other, and they love the manager they're playing for. And some of the best teams you've ever seen love, and I'm not saying they don't love Stefanski necessarily. I'm just saying something's broken, and that's where it needs to be fixed. I don't know if these guys love each other. I don't know if they have each other's backs. And I'm not saying every single one of them, because let's say the Browns listen to this. I'm sure there's a lot of them be like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not in the locker room every day. They're right. I'm not. This is a guess. This is just a guess. I don't have any inside info from the locker room. I'm just going by what I see and what I know in life. And I know that whenever I've been in situations, and it's not just sports, it's in a business. And when things aren't going well and there's drama and controversy, it wears on you. And I just wonder if this team, it's just worn on them. The whole Deshaun Watson situation has worn on them. And maybe they might like each other, but maybe they don't love each other. And I think that's important when you go to battle. I just watched the thing on Twitter this morning, X, Dan Campbell in the Lions locker room. Man, that looks like a team that loves each other right now, that is just clicking on all cylinders. And I just don't think that's the Browns.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Chud. I'm not going to argue with any of that. I would say it's a lot easier to love each other when you're winning games. And, if they had won in Las Vegas, the locker room would have been jumping up and down, and the Browns would have put out a Stefanski video.
True.
Right. So I don't know what the cause and effect is. I know that we wrote and talked about the chemistry and camaraderie last year over and over again, and talked about how important the Greenbrier was to building that. And it became necessary when they went through all those injuries and the adversity, and they pulled together, and then they went to stay in LA for a week, and all that built. And you can write about that when you're winning, when the team's winning. When the team's losing, nobody's talking about that. So I'm not dismissing that. I'm just saying I think that's all part of it. And I know Stefanski tried to build the same thing this year. That's why they went back to the Greenbrier. And, I can't say, I'm in the locker room a lot, but that's, it's 45 minutes, whatever, 3-4 times a week. So it's not like I'm living with these guys. So I can't tell you if there is a change there from last year to this year. I think that's entirely possible. Now, if they come out of this, I'll tell you what, if they come out of this and wind up winning a bunch of games, one of the reasons will be because of that, because they have not only the grit to come out of it, but they are able to pull together and figure out how to do that as a team. I think that's 100% correct. And I don't think you're off base with Watts. And when you ask me that question, my first thought is Deshaun Watson and why they're not living up to the expectations. And it's not all about the play on the field. Like, certainly I don't think his play on the field has been good enough. I thought he was better Sunday against the Raiders. And he hasn't gotten a lot of help. And I wrote last week, and we probably talked about it on here, is it's complicated trying to evaluate Watson because he isn't getting a lot of help, and he's getting the snot kicked out of him, and the protection's not good enough, and Amari Cooper's dropping too many passes. And if they don't get the holding call or the touchdown called back by a holding penalty, then you add 82 yards, and all of a sudden his numbers look great. And if you take away the interception off Cooper's chest, then he doesn't have an interception, and the passer rating is so much better, right? So it's tough to fully evaluate him. Having said that, he's not playing elite level football, which is what you're paying him for, which is what they traded all those picks for him, is to play elite football. And he's not doing that. Even if he's playing adequate football or slightly above average football, or he's playing better, he's not playing elite football. And sometimes you need your quarterback to do that for you. And whether that's all game or in the last 2 minutes, you need him to rescue you. And Watson has not done that. And he had another chance Sunday. And again, it wasn't all his fault. The Nick Harris holding penalty wipes out a touchdown. And I'm trying to remember the other drive. There's a bad Nick Harris snap. But they do have 4th and 3 from the 9-yard line, and he doesn't make a play. And yes, he got pressured, but he doesn't throw the ball away. He doesn't throw the ball. And it's 4th down, game on the line. He's got to throw the ball. And it looked like he had Jordan Akins open early. Now, there's confusion on the route, and maybe that's not even his first guy. So when he looks first, his first guy's covered, and they double pumps, and then the pressure gets to him. So again, it's not just him, but we always start with the quarterback, and something is missing there, even if it's not all his fault. So that's the first thing that came to my head. The second thing is, and again, this is an intangible thing, we talked about expectations. Does this team think too much of itself and therefore is resting on what it did in 2023 and thinking it's better than it is and doesn't have to go out and prove it? And I don't know if you can quantify that, but I feel like there's a little bit of that. And I feel like on the defense is where it really shows up, because it hasn't played that dominant like I thought it would, like I think it should. And missed tackles feel like effort. And they're missing tackles. And there's just a play here or a play there. And maybe it's because they think they're better than they are, or they think they're just good, and that hasn't shown up either.
Yeah. I like your perspective take. I do. That's you've mentioned it twice, and I'm on board with that. And I kind of like what you're saying there. And I will agree. Had they won, you're right. You would have seen the locker room celebration and the excitement. So maybe what it's going to take is Deshaun Watson to have a comeback win and them to get a couple wins to string together. And then maybe that love will become apparent. But hopefully that my theory will be proven wrong in the future. But that's how I feel right now. And that's just, from watching what I've seen so far. You're right about Watson. And I don't think we need to dwell on it too much more. I think you pretty much summed it up. Bottom line is he played well enough to win. He did much better, but you're right that they didn't make the trade they made to get this version of Watson. They made the trade to get a guy that pulls you from a loss and wins a game like that, like you said.
Yeah.
So Scott, since we're on kind of that, what you see and how you feel, man, let's just dive into Amari Cooper real quick. And first of all, I hated that penalty. Real quick, before we dive into Cooper, did you agree with that penalty or no?
I don't want to sound wishy-washy, Chud. I didn't think it was a great call, but yeah. I've seen that call before. So I didn't think it was the worst penalty I've ever seen. I think they could have let it go. The problem is when you have a scrambling quarterback, and the Raiders got a call similar to this in the first half when Minshew scrambled and one of the Browns linemen tried to go chase him. If you're the offensive lineman, you got him held inside, and it's legal. When he starts to move, the jersey stretches, and it looks like a hold. And that's what the lineman talked about. You got to move your feet because then you stay locked with him, and then you got to let go at the right time. So it leads to those types of holding calls when you have a quarterback on the move scrambling. So I don't think it was a terrible call. I'm not blaming the official. If they had let it go, I don't think that the Raiders go bananas, because I've seen way more egregious holds not called.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it, but I guess I wouldn't kill myself arguing over it, but yeah. it was such a disappointment, man. It was like the air out of the balloon, right? And I know some people say, well, they still had 10 more minutes and this and that, but I mean, yeah, 10 more minutes to watch them not be able to score 20 points in any game so far. I mean, it's just like that was finally an explosion, because that's the problem with this offense right now, don't you think? I mean, there's no quick strike. Think about it. Everything's so, for them to have success, and geez, now I'm getting away from Cooper, so we'll get back to that. Yeah. But it goes back to the point how much have we touched on the fact that their opening drives are always so great, and then that's it. And they're long drives, but it just doesn't seem like it's a quick strike offense.
100% right. I think they've scored a touchdown on their opening drive in the last 3 games, and I think for the season they have 6 touchdowns. So that's incomprehensible. It is that half their touchdowns come in their first drives, and then it's nothing. Then they just go stretches with no points, no touchdowns. They go 3 for 3 on third down on their first drive Sunday, and then go 0 for 7 the rest of the game. They're last in the league in third down conversions. And this is all part of why the offense isn't good enough. But you're right. They're missing that explosiveness. And they're trying to do that. So they're trying to manufacture ways. And one of those ways is when a team blitzes you and you catch them blitzing, it leads to the opportunity for a big play. And they talked about that following the Giants game, right? The Giants game, the Giants blitzed more than they thought. They're really effective with the blitz. The Browns didn't have good answers. So they spent the last week before the Raiders, who blitz a lot anyway, how are they going to deal with that? And a perfect example of everything that's going wrong is end of the second quarter, Raiders bring a blitz. DeJuan Jones at right tackle doesn't block the guy on the edge. He said he had the count wrong. So if they're bringing 6, he's got to get the guy on the outside, however that works from a protection standpoint. He took full responsibility. He doesn't block the guy. The guy gets to Watson before Watson has time. Watson can tell Cooper's coming open, but doesn't know exactly if he's going to, fade in or fade out. Throws it up, and Cooper goes in. The ball goes to the outside. If Watson has another beat, he sees Cooper running in, and it's a touchdown. Everyone said it would have been a touchdown. Watson, Jones, and that's the kind of play we're talking about, where a mental mistake, and it feels like a small mistake in the grand scheme of things, but it turns out to be huge, and it wipes out an explosive play that would have given him a touchdown, and they only lose by 4 points. Right? It's a huge play in the game, and it doesn't happen. And then you look at the hold on Nick Harrison. Let's just call it the right call. We have a right tackle kills you with a mental mistake, a center kills you with a penalty, and you wipe out 2 huge plays that all of a sudden those are those explosive plays that they've been dying to get. And that's how you lose these games.
Yeah, and you lose the game too. It's just the mistakes. I mean, Cooper dropping that pass, the missed extra point, which changes, what you have to do on the final drive. Hey, one thing real quick.
Yeah.
A lot of people are upset that Stefanski called a timeout there before the 4th down. Where do you stand on that? I actually don't mind it, and I'm glad he did, because I would rather them get their best play and it obviously turned out to be ugly.
Yeah.
But I'd rather them have their best play, and like that play, if they succeed, they win the game, right? Instead of mentally thinking, and I know you always think about, what if you fail? But at that point, I know that they didn't have them 3 timeouts, and if you fail on that play, it's game over. But I didn't have a problem with it before, so I can't really be, Monday morning quarterback on it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. And I asked Stefanski about that Monday. And part of the reason I did is I saw a Raiders writer on Twitter or X talking about how that was a big play. And even at the time, I can't believe he called timeout there. And it stuck in my head. But now going back and thinking about it, even since I asked the question, there were only 41 seconds left when he wound up calling the timeout. That's not enough time to, if you run the play without calling the timeout and it's a failure and the Raiders get the ball back, let even say with 45 or 50 seconds left, if you'd run the play faster. Because I think the play before started 1:19 left. So even if you run it, the Raiders get the ball with, call it 50 seconds. They run 3 plays. They each take 5 seconds. You call timeout. You get the ball with maybe 30 seconds left, and you got to go the whole way for a touchdown. That's not enough time to me to think that you should protect that timeout. So I'm with you. I think in that situation with the timing of it, you call your timeout. You think about winning, not, oh my gosh, if it goes wrong, can we have one more possession? At some point that should be in your head, but I think not with the situation in the clock situation. So I don't think Stefanski should be killed for that.
Yeah, okay.
Getting back to Cooper. And I've gone back and forth with him. And I always thought he was a really good player. He's a really good player. He had 2 great years for the Browns. And even when he struggled in those first 2 games and had the drops, thought he was going to come out of the funk. And then it looked like he did against the Giants. And he did. He had 7 catches, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. But to go back and have such a key drop against the Raiders, and it's not just a drop, it's a drop that turns into an interception. And it's at least a 10-point swing, because if he catches that ball, he's about on the 30-yard line. Let's assume the Browns go in and at least kick a field goal. So let's take 3 points off the board that the Browns would have had. The Raiders return it to midfield, score a touchdown on that drive. it's a 10-point swing. Again, all these games, even when you're a great team, these games come down to a play here, a play there. It's a field goal. It's a touchdown, right? It's 3 points, 4 points. You can't give away those kind of swings. And, again, it's one play. So do you kill a guy for one play? No, but you kill a guy when that play follows the drop against the Cowboys. You kill him when it follows the drop against the Jaguars. And I've kind of gotten to the point where something is amiss with Amari Cooper. And maybe he figures it out. He is a true pro. Maybe he gets back to where he was against the Giants. But it feels like we've seen too many examples with Cooper just through 4 games to think that something's not bugging him. Whether that's the fact that the Browns did not give him the extension he wanted, whether that's that he was mentioned in trade talks during training camp, whether it's, Deshaun Watson doesn't give him the ball enough and he had more success with Joe Flacco or whatever it is, it feels like something is not right with Amari Cooper.
Yeah. All right, let's get to injuries. We got to get healthy, Scott.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Chubb at the outset. He's going to practice Wednesday. That's the plan. I don't expect him to play this week, but they open a 21-day window. That's what happens. He's ready to practice. You open a 21-day window as a team, then it has a decision to make whether to activate him or keep him on PUP for the season. If he's ready to practice, that's certainly encouraging. When he plays, yet to be determined. Could it be Philly? Could it be Cincy? Could it be Baltimore? Any of those games I think is possibility. You would hope that he adds a jolt to this team emotionally, right? He's the heart and soul of this team, but it's different when you're not playing. It's different when, and I know he's there and he's around the team, but it's just different when, you're not playing and you're not practicing. So maybe him being on the field adds a jolt, just a practice field, let alone what he might be able to do to the running game if he's, close to being the Nick Chubb he was. And we're not going to know that for a while, at least until he plays. But could be a jolt. David Njoku should practice this week. Kevin Stefanski's not ready to say that he'll play Sunday, but there's a chance he plays against the Commanders. He practiced last Thursday, didn't do much, then shut it down, didn't practice Friday. The Browns obviously hope that he's much better this week. And then we'll get an update on the tackles. I think Wills or Conklin, it's like any week they could play. But we don't know. And until they survive a whole game, until Wills survives a whole game and can play the next week, until Conklin can actually make it to the game and get through it, there's still a big question mark. But I do think there is a level of hope that, okay, they're going to get some guys back. And then you get the week after, you could get some defenders back off IR. That went, Juan Thornhill, Tony Fields, even Mahmoud Diabate, they went on IR after week 1. Naheem Hines, he's supposed to practice this week. He's yet to practice with the Browns, coming off an ACL from July 2023 when he was with the Bills. Maybe he adds something to that return game, which has not, especially in their kickoff returns, has not done much. Can he help you as a third down back? So there's reason to think these guys could help. At the same time, and the Browns were asked about this after the game. Hey, could you get some of these guys back? Maybe. They had the right answers. It's got to be about the guys there right now. It can't be, okay, we're going to be better when player X or Y comes back. It has to be these guys right now in the huddle on the field have to find their own solutions. And that has to be the attitude that they have.
Yeah, they need those guys back on the offensive line. It has been brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, they're out with, without Wyatt Teller now for at least 3 more games. James Hudson is James Hudson at left tackle. And if you had Conklin back, I think DeJuan Jones is a long-term answer at right tackle. But he's not playing well enough right now. And maybe some of that's the knee injury he's dealing with. I mentioned the mental mistake. That had nothing to do with the knee. But they'd be better off if they had some options there. And the injuries to Wills and Conklin give them no options.
I had a buddy of mine texted me and just said, maybe Chubb should reconsider. Would he really want to come back with this offensive line? I say that jokingly. But I
had somebody tweet that at me too. Yeah. I know. But,
right?
but yeah,
I think we.
yeah. I mean, it's just interesting, Chad. Like, but you wonder the Nick Chubb he's always been probably makes that offensive line look better, right? I mean, and I get it that the offensive line's having issues, but it's all connected, right? And that's an issue with football. And you try to pick one thing apart, it's all connected. If you had a quarterback that made quicker decisions and held the ball less, you'd be talking less about the offensive line. But if you had an offensive line that protected better, then Deshaun Watson would have a better chance to succeed, right? That's why, again, I hang out with these coaches and players too much. That's why it's the ultimate team game, Chud.
Yeah, I was telling my wife the other day, I'm so tired of hearing, well, I got to take a look at the film. I got to look at the film. I don't need to look at the film. I watched it on Sunday. My eyes are burning. I don't need to take a look at the film, but I get it. I know the game. Oh, you know what? I almost forgot to bring this up. Let's talk about two things real quick.
Yeah.
What did you think about Amari Cooper's comments last week about the media and asking bad questions?
Oh, yeah. I think he might have been joking and said it kind of in a playful way. I was standing there. I was standing there, but I was looking around the locker room, trying to talk to somebody else and see if they were there. So I wasn't fully engaged when he went on that whole, I don't want to call it a rant, but when he gave that answer. What's concerning is it's the third time he's kind of criticized the media this season, and I'm never a fan of that. And, the reality is, his point was maybe if you guys were on camera, people would see you asking bad questions, I think was the gist of it. First of all, people know, for the most part, people know when I'm asking a question. I've been doing this long enough that if you're really paying attention, it's, I think a lot of people can tell it's my voice. It's not like a brag or something, but you can tell it's Mary Kay, and you can tell it's me, and you can tell it's Jeff Chudell. Like, I think people who listen and watch a lot of news conferences can tell. Number one. Number two, nobody needs to see me on camera. And number three, if I got paid millions of dollars, they could put me on camera all they wanted. So I think those are the kind of subtleties missing there in Cooper's comment.
That's exactly right. Look, when you think about Cooper's drop, he could come back and say, well, everyone makes mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, Warren. I did when I was in the sports bar. Everyone's human. We make mistakes, but that's the difference. You only get a certain amount of opportunities and you get millions of dollars for it. So when you make a mistake, it's glaring.
That's exactly right. Right? I mean, and it's obviously, the higher profile you are, the fewer opportunities you get, the more those matter, it just does.
Mm-hmm. How about Jerry Jeudy? I don't ever remember an athlete during any season of any sport saying that he's like basically out of shape and needs to condition more. What was that all about?
Yeah, it caught me off guard. I happened to be recording the answer. So I tweeted out the video or posted the video on X. And it's bizarre. And it got a little bit of run because people couldn't believe it, Chud, just like you. People were like, what's he talking about? Isn't that what training camp's for? And, people want to spin it toward blaming Stefanski. But, I've seen these guys run. I've seen him run these guys. Like, at some point, there's individual responsibility you have to take as a player. And that counts mental mistakes like the one DeJuan Jones had, like Nick Harris's premature snap. Like, I get that the buck stops with the coach. But you can only coach him so much. And guys have to be in shape. I've seen Myles Garrett run after practices to make sure he's in shape. And that's what Jerry Jeudy's going to do this week. He said it. But for him to come out and maybe he was, and I don't know him well enough, right? He's new to the team. Maybe he was just trying to say, hey, we're all trying to do whatever it takes to get out of this slump or whatever you want to call it. And for him, that's what he identified. But the fact that that's what he identified is troublesome. And that he admitted it and it's on the record is at least a head scratcher, if not worse.
Yeah, no question. Well, you pretty much hit the defense earlier. I mean, I don't think we need, go any further on that. They got ran all over, no question. They made the big play, the which almost brought him back to victory. So that was a big play, no doubt. But and you know what? I wrote it down, but I don't even think I'm going to ask you about two former quarterbacks that played with the Browns. That I just don't know if I have it in me. Unless you want to comment on it, does it even matter?
No, it doesn't matter. I think it rubs salt in the wound. But I will say, in this analysis I'm working on, there is at least one Joe Flacco reference. Or maybe it was what I wrote yesterday. That Watson hasn't thrown the offense hasn't totaled 300 yards in a game this year. And Flacco had 4 300 game. He threw for 300 yards in 4 games last year. That's just a little bit of just a little contrast there for you.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, on the back to the opening drive thing, in their notes it says the Browns have scored on their opening drive in all 4 games, including touchdowns in each of the last 3.
Yeah. Out of 6 total touchdowns, there's 3 of them.
Yeah. All right, I got to be honest. I'm exhausted. I'm ready to get to the prediction, unless you have something else.
No, I think we hit it, buddy. I think we're good. I'll go first.
I'll go first.
You go first.
I'm going to go first. It's no surprise. I've given them their shot. I'm 1-3. I just 24-19 Washington. I mean, I'm going to give the defense credit. They hold them. I know Washington's have been putting up a lot of points. I'm scared to death of their QB. That said, it's the NFL. They'll probably come out and win this game somehow. But again, I'm going to put them at 19 under the 20 points. 24-19 Washington.
Yeah, we're going to be close here, Chud. I feel like they're going to have a game in them at some point where things click, they get a break. Maybe they just make a last stand, whatever that is. I can't predict it to be this week. I'm not sure I've gotten a pick right this year on these guys. But I can't go out on a limb. I can't pick them. I've just seen too much bad football. I've seen Daniels in the start he's off to. Does he come back to earth against this defense? That's completely possible. Do the Browns figure out something on offense and get in a shootout, right? We've seen shootouts when you don't expect them plenty of times. Having said all that, I'm going to go Washington 24, Cleveland 23.
All right, so we both have 24. Yeah, our predictions have been ugly this year. They really have.
That's because we keep thinking these guys are going to win.
So, yeah, I know. Wow. And what's concerning is I do like one point you made that they're not out of it by any means. I mean, it's only 4 games. I mean, if you look at the standings, it's not like they're 4 games back. But boy, when you see what Baltimore did to Buffalo, you're just like, all right, the Ravens are definitely in a different league. The Steelers are always going to be tough. And then you just wonder if the Bengals are going to come back or not. That's the concerning factor.
It is. And it's all how you view things, too. Right? Not to beat the drum on this perspective thing. But Baltimore 2 weeks ago blew a 4-quarter lead at home to the Raiders. And I think they were 0-2, and it felt like, oh, my God. Or anyway, it felt like, okay, this team is flawed. Things are going the wrong way. All of a sudden, they blow out Buffalo on a Sunday night, and you go, that's the Ravens team we always expected. It's true because the Ravens have been always good or historically good. They were really good last year. So this just makes sense. With the Browns, when things go poorly, it's like, well, we've seen that so many times. That's kind of what I think you're just trained to expect from the Browns. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, so if the Browns played great against Washington and beat Washington, I don't know, there wouldn't be the same reaction. Oh, this is the Browns team. This is the Browns team you knew. They need to show it more often, and I think that's justified because they don't have the track record is Baltimore, but it's just interesting. Baltimore's 2-2. Has played not great this year, but they beat a really good Buffalo team, and they handled that really good Buffalo team. And even at 2-2, it's, okay, where do you rank them at the top of the conference? I just think it's interesting, and it's, again, another lesson in perspective. Not that it's wrong. I think it's just interesting.
All right, we'll see what happens. Hopefully we are wrong again. The Browns come up with a win, and we have a much more pleasant conversation next week. I feel like this was good therapy for me. I don't know about you, but let's move on.
Well, I always enjoy talking to each other, so I enjoy doing these regardless of win or loss, but I do get your points. So thanks, buddy, as always. I appreciate it.
No,
Yeah. I know, I'm just giving you a hard time. We'll do this again next week. This has been another episode of the Zone Coverage Podcast, and you can read all my work at brownzone.com. Thanks.